because we're just going to go ahead and we're going to do this. It's time, Ryan.
Okay.
It's time. It's
Okay.
time to talk about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which comes out this week. After 7 weeks from Cannes, I guess.
Yes.
And however long it was that they released it, and it didn't get raves, and so we've been sitting on it, waiting, and we finally got to see it. And they asked us to wait for week of release, which today, on recording day, is Sunday, week of release.
Yeah.
So even though there was no embargo, we waited, we were kind. I'm a fan of the franchise, as most people tend to be.
Yeah.
Man, I don't want to launch right into a screed. I mean, I wrote it up and I posted it, and I think I tried to keep my screed level to a minimum, but I don't think this is a good movie.
I'm totally fine with
it. You're fine with the movie?
Yes.
Okay. So when you say you're fine with it, where do you put it then? How do you break down your fine with this movie for me?
Well, I mean, it's far better than the last one.
Again, that's like a lot of times we talk about superhero movies.
I know. I think this is the first film where they did the de-aging thing where it didn't take me out of the moment.
There were a couple spots.
The first act is essentially going back in time, and so it's young Indiana Jones.
End of World War II.
And yes, collecting items from the Nazis, of course.
Classic.
Well, I mean, yeah. And I thought that this one got to work in the sci-fi elements to a better degree than the previous film did. I don't know. I mean, ranking wise, I don't know. Is it third? Is it fourth? I don't. I mean, I'm not trying to say that this is a fantastic movie, but I have no. I mean, as muted as reaction was, I was expecting something that wasn't, even remotely enjoyable, and I found this to be as enjoyable, if not more enjoyable, than a lot of the other big action films that we saw this summer. So
that's okay. That's fair. Let's talk about that opening sequence then. That for me felt the most like an Indiana Jones movie.
Sure.
That was 15-20 minutes of classic Indiana Jones. Now, granted, I don't know that Toby Jones is the best guy to put in there. I don't feel that for him in this role. But sure. I like Toby Jones, so I let it slide. But I think the feel and the flow and the intent of that opening sequence really is to remind you how great Indiana Jones is.
Yeah.
Because that feels the most like a Raiders or a Last Crusade.
Sure.
And then we get to old Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
In the 1969. And that's where he doesn't want to be there in this entire movie.
I mean, he's old, he's grumpy, but I didn't think it was. I mean, I thought it was fine. Yes. Is it a step back from the first act? Yeah. Yes, it is. But I don't know. I just didn't really have any issues with what they were doing with it because it felt like they were just making a movie rather than trying to make the last movie or set up the spin-offs or, I mean, it just felt like they were making a movie, and I thought that was refreshing. I mean, I'm not gonna. You not liking it,
right?
Isn't a huge surprise. But for me, it did what it needed to do, and it scratched that itch. And if it ends there, it ends there, and I think that's an okay place to end. It's a
Well,
better place to end. I think maybe that's the main thing for me is I wouldn't want it to end on where it was, and so to have this be the new kind of ending point
right.
is much more satisfying to me than where we were at.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think it's a good movie. I think that there are things in this movie that are good, kind of like canonically, or even moments that are just good. Like I said, that opening sequence is great. I felt like the most emotion in this film was him retiring, that sequence, where it just that's a broken man at that moment.
Sure.
Where he's retiring. Because it's tough when your life's work ends. And that's what was happening to him. And the fact that I think that he was finishing at what I'm going to assume in 1969 is a C-list school in New York City instead of the University of Chicago or anywhere else that he could have been, because he was throughout his career had been a lauded archaeologist and professor. And I think time kind of passed him by, and to where he wasn't as appreciated for a lot of things, which I hate to jump on the hate wagon, but man, I really hated that Helena just continually rubs his face. Basically, she tells him he's worthless in one hand, but in the next moment, he's the only one that can do this. And it happens through the entire movie. And she's just she's never self-deprecating in this movie. I mean, one of the things I wrote is like, she believes she knows everything. She tells you she knows everything, the whole freaking movie. And it's not in that cute kind of, I'm really self-aware and self-conscious kind of way that a Han Solo or a classic Indiana Jones has, where that's all cover. She firmly believes that she is the smartest person in the room every single time, and that she is going to beat you because she's better than you. She in any other movie, those are the characteristics of the villain.
Well, maybe, but I think that it's also a woman operating in a world dominated by men. So she has to be better. She's been raised to have to be better.
But does she? I mean, but does she have to do it with the man that she theoretically respects at some point?
You can't.
That's my problem. She can be pissy about the antiquities dealers,
sure, but
the Sheikh's son.
I think for a lot of what is going on is the fact that she doesn't respect him. It's a cover. She, and at the end, I think, yes, does she change? Yes, I think she eventually, but I initially, at least for the first 3/4 of the movie, I don't think that she views him as an equal or a superior.
And I don't understand. She grew up with him. She knows what you know what I mean?
Sure.
She knows what he is and what he's done and what he knows.
Yeah, but she also thinks that he's ridiculous and he should have made more money, or that.
Well, he wasn't in it for money.
Well, exactly, and he should have been. I think you guys did all this adventuring, and you could have given the people that you love a life that was worth living, but instead you. Strung us along, and
so I'm going to devote my life to the exact same field
that I am going to. Well, I think
do it better than you.
No, I don't think it was that. I think it was I see an opportunity to make money. I see an opportunity that you guys didn't take, so I'm gonna ethically, I don't care about these things ending up in museums. It doesn't make any difference to me.
I get she's a villain.
Yeah,
She's a villain. I mean, I when I wrote it up, I said she's like the main villain of the movie. Mads Mikkelsen is like a secondary villain. He doesn't get as much screen time. He's really not. He's really one dimensional because he's just a Nazi holdover. It's like
yeah,
Nazi got it. You know, I am kind of surprised by what his plan was going to be.
sure.
Going back, it's like that's an ambitious plan. I wish we had heard more about that moving forward. Because it's like you think you know what his plan is. He's going to go right all the mistakes that Hitler made. It's like, well, technically, but what you're
Sort of.
really going to do is what every time traveler says they're going to do, but not for the same reasons. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
that's a plot I can get behind. How weird would it have been if this movie, spoiler alerts, I'm going to say it, spoiler alert, well, it's not really a spoiler alert because this is my idea of what the movie could have been. What if this movie had actually been a time travel movie in which Indiana Jones has to save Hitler to save history?
Mm, interesting, but it wouldn't fly. It would.
I
That
even
would
with
be.
Mangold,
It
you don't
would
think
be.
Mangold
It
would have
would
considered
be.
that?
No, I think it would have been Man of Steel. No, I don't think audiences would accept that, and I think unfortunately, better would it have been an interesting film? Could have been, but do I think that would that go over? I no, I don't. I don't
I
think.
don't know that it would have gone over, but it would have at least had people talking.
Sure, but I think considering the contemporary attitudes toward Nazis, in the
Yeah.
sense that there are plenty of people who think that they are not that bad. I don't know that you do that. I think it comes across as being a Nazi
Well,
apologist. And
because that's the weird thing is that he actually would have been saving the best case Nazis as opposed to the worst case, not the worst, the even worse
yeah,
Nazis that would have happened, which is kind of where we were going in this. This was the desired end state. So it's weird. I think it's a direction they could have gone. You're right. No, a lot of people would have had problems with it. It would have taken a ballsy filmmaker to do it.
well,
Um,
and I don't think that this is necessarily the
I
right time to do this.
I don't know. Yeah, well, I don't know that there is a good time, but honestly, I think Indiana Jones winds up being the best character to do it with because of everything that has gone before. Just a thought, but no,
Mm.
but the way this movie, I said this movie running through the plot that we have, and look, there's been a lot of talk on the internet about how this movie was made, how they shot the movie, right? How they shot multiple versions of every scene so they could figure out what worked and put together a movie, which sounds like a terrible way to put together a movie, but I don't know that that's actually true. But if that was the way that they did this, the story that they put together here does actually make sense. There is a beginning, there is a middle, there is an end.
Mm.
So if that's what they did, they shot enough to put together a fairly coherent story through the film. So kudos to you. My problem is that it is very A to B to C to D. I felt like I was watching Uncharted again, which, by the way, quick tangent, my wife had never watched. So I said, if you really want to watch it, I'll watch it again. And so I sat through Uncharted again, and I was like, man, this movie's terrible.
Yeah,
But
I
for the
was going to
record,
say
this movie is not as bad as Uncharted.
no. It's nowhere near as bad.
It's nowhere near as bad as Uncharted. But
So
that story flow, it's like we have to get to here to get to the thing, to do the other thing, to do this thing, to do that thing, and then we're done.
yeah.
And but it is it never, I don't know. It just, after that opening sequence, it just never kind of felt like an Indiana Jones movie. They were not always, they were almost always playing catch up. Antonio Banderas is wasted here in a glorified cameo.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
I don't know how I actually felt about that whole underwater sequence. I was like, I see kind of what they wanted. And I was like, it's just something's off, and I can't put my finger on it. I don't know if if there's a technical thing that I'm thinking in the back of my head that's wrong or something. But I was watching, I was just like, this could be, why is this not working in my head? And I couldn't figure out why. But I still haven't figured out why that's not working. All I know is that it's really sad that Antonio Banderas is dead. And he's wasted because everyone dies in this movie except for Indiana Jones and Helena. Any other side character they run into winds up dying because that's what happens in these movies. Which actually, there's a lot more death in this movie than there is in a previous Indiana Jones movies. Truth be told, there's a lot of collateral damage here, and not like nameless soldier collateral damage. There's always that in an Indiana Jones movie, but there's a lot of characters that you're like, "Hi, my name's Bob, 40. I like to." Oh no, Bob's dead. Yeah, it's not red shirt number 2 that gets killed. So it's interesting. But yeah, this is nowhere near as bad as Uncharted. It's watchable. I don't know that I need to watch it again, which makes me sad. But I don't know if I need to watch Crystal Skull again anytime unless I'm really, really bored.
No, I'd absolutely watch this over.
And I might just for that opening sequence. I mean, I'd watch the rest of the movie because I can't stop a movie halfway through it. It doesn't really work for me. But like I said, and there's enough things in here that are interesting canonically that, his relationship with Marion after the last movie. We get some resolution here, or we get some insight into that and some resolution on that. We get some resolution on Mutt. We get some. The only thing that's weird is that we introduce a completely new colleague to be Helena's father, when we could have gone with Broadbent's granddaughter from Crystal Skull. We could have gone. Well, actually, we couldn't. It could have been his daughter because they were about the same age, her granddaughter. But there were other characters that had run through. I mean, Marcus Brody was dead, so that would have been a stretch, maybe. Although it would have been nice to be like his granddaughter. That would have been cool because the age would have worked out right then. So it would have, that would have worked. But they just introduced a completely new character, maybe because they needed him in the opening sequence, or they wanted that character in the opening sequence. And that's really the only reason I think that we got introduced to Toby Jones, which, like I said, I love Toby Jones. He's great. But it's just weird that we get, his opposite, his balance is just a completely new character that we're supposed to believe there's history when there's not really history. So they just kind of shoehorn it in there. Mads Mikkelsen, appropriately menacing, as Mads Mikkelsen is when he wants to be. But again, his performance was very one note for me. There wasn't a lot of. I mean, sure, he's German, but it was never up. He was never down, really.
There was a sense of bitterness of,
it was almost disgust.
Yeah,
but again, it's very reserved. Disgust, and I think the most worked up he got was right at the end when he was saying "turn around, turn around, turn around." Yeah. When he realized I've made a horrible mistake, I need to rethink my life choices. Which panic will do that, I guess.
Dashboard confessionals, sure.
This. Yeah.
Oh, this is a bad idea. Yeah.
Yeah. This. Oh. But no. So, then the final sequence, not the closing, but that final sequence with the dial, bookends with the front of modern Indy. So that makes sense. You kind of guess that's where it's going to be because these movies are nothing if not predictive for you.
Yeah.
Whatever we're talking about in the first part, that's the important part at the end part. Even though it seems like idle chit chat. So but it's there. It's kind of neat in that way. You do get a history lesson. Although I was watching them and they were he's talking about the death rays, and I was like, debunked, Mythbusters. That's all I could think of that one moment was, nope, that was debunked. But it was cool. That ending was kind of neat. I think the close had to be the way it was. I don't think they could end it any other way, maybe without riots. Had he gotten his wish, I think there
Sure.
would have been riots. And I wouldn't have been happy with that ending either, to be fair. So yeah, they came back and they tug on your heartstrings a little bit, and that works. It's always nice to see John Rhys Davies as Sala. But it just, I think the movie as a whole is no better than a 5 out of 10 for me.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about for me. I think it's more of a 6.5. But
I don't know. I just
which is, I mean, I think that I enjoyed it as much, if not more so, than the Flash. Than I mean,
man, I don't know.
the Transformers really. I mean, I would put them all, and maybe this says something, but they're all kind of. I mean, I think I enjoyed this one the most, but they're all on par with each other. Which maybe
Yeah,
says some not so great stuff about the blockbuster movies this summer.
it has been a weird summer for blockbuster movies.
I mean, if you're not a Spider-Man cartoon, you
or a Mario brother,
or a Mario. Well, yeah, but I mean, even the Mario brother. I think that I don't know that was a masterpiece. I think that performed well, and I think it was an enjoyable film. But I don't know that it was. I mean, it was probably a little better, but not a lot better than these. So I mean, a lot of I think we're in this kind of phase where a lot of the big summer blockbusters are all coming out as, that's all right, it's good. All right.
So is it? Well, there's going to be one that's probably going to destroy that sentiment here in another couple of weeks, but which we're seeing this week, which is why we're talking about this one now. But do you think that is there a quality decline, or is there an audience? I don't want to say there's a jaded audience, because good films are performing. Maverick performed.
I think.
Or audience more. I mean, are we that much more selective as an audience?
Well, I think that there is. I don't. Well, yeah, I think there's a selectiveness. I mean, it's the getting out of the rhythm of going to these things. It's. I don't know specifically. I think with every different film, there's probably a slightly different reason, but there's a lot of reasons out there, and I think that's part of the problem. Is the industry kind of ate itself, and it put itself on a course that made movie theaters less important. Because you couldn't go to the movies, so they had to improvise. But I think they went so far in the other direction that now everyone is like, well, why didn't you just put this on Disney Plus? Well,
right,
because it was never intended to just be on Disney Plus. That was, but the convenience element of it. I guess people don't care about seeing movies in the way they're supposed to be seen. I guess they're okay with. Films that are tiny on their rather than seeing them in the theater with a bunch of people. They can watch them at home on their phone or whatever. But that's
only watch movies on your phone if you're on an airplane. That's the only time you should be watching a movie on your phone, is if you're on an airplane, because you're stuck on an airplane.
Yeah.
And it should be a movie that you've already seen, not one that you're seeing for the first time. That's my quick rant there. Let me ask you a question. We touched on the boring part of movies, the movie business, when we talked about The Flash and Elemental. We talked about distribution and streaming and theaters.
Mm-hmm.
Here, this is a question, and you probably haven't considered this yet. This is made by Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, made by Lucasfilm
and Paramount, yeah.
Owned by Disney,
yeah,
and Paramount. I would assume that Paramount has distribution rights.
No, I would think it's.
Now you see what my question is. Where's this going to stream? Disney or Paramount Plus?
I would guess that they've worked that out somehow.
Or both?
Yeah, I would think. Yeah. Although I think where it might get tricky there is home video. Who has the home video rights versus because I mean,
Because
I don't know.
Disney owns the first four at this point. That's their intellectual property.
No, they're Paramount.
So this might not wind up on Disney Plus. This might wind up on Paramount Plus.
That could be, but yeah,
So-
the Paramount home video rights or the home video rights to the Indiana Jones are Paramount.
That, but hey, look, if you enjoy what you're seeing and hearing on the Visually Stunning Movie Podcast, why not take a second to click subscribe if you're on YouTube, click follow wherever you're listening to us. Follow us on Twitter at VS Movie Podcast. Same over on Facebook. If you're on Instagram, it's Visually Stunning Movie Podcast. That would be awesome for us. We appreciate you listening. And now let's get back to the show. So here's a really weird question for you. And sorry, folks, this question just popped into my head. Is it possible that if Disney wants to stream this on Disney Plus, they would have to pay Paramount to stream their own film?
I would think that they had worked that out prior to all of this, but is it possible? Yes, it's possible.
That's just weird. And that, my friends, sums up how jacked up the movie industry is right now. I think that's just insane.
Yeah, I mean
that there's a scenario in which Disney has to pay. Like I said, they obviously had to have worked this out. Yeah, but there's a scenario in which Disney has to pay to stream its own movie.
Or there has to be some sort of financial consideration at some point that they had to strike a deal with Paramount to get this, So
wow. That's crazy.
Well, but
that is so. But again, that's the fracturing of the market that we were talking about. There's not a place to stream. There's 100 places to stream.
Sure.
And then back in the day, wasn't it cute when there were like 7 production companies listed at the front of a movie?
Yeah.
Because they all had different slices of the distribution pie and the marketing pie. And it was for theaters. And now you look at that and it's like, that's an issue. Or that can become an issue. That's just weird. That's crazy. Like I said, I hadn't thought about that aspect of it till right now. Because I was just thinking, it's funny because Paramount is going to be going up against Paramount in a few weeks when Mission Impossible 7 comes out.
Yeah, but I think you'd find that they're probably okay with.
I say going up against, and people know what I mean. Because again, this is going to be in theaters for 3 weeks, and then Mission Impossible hits on week 4, I think. 2, 3. Yeah, 3 weeks, and then the 4th week of Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible hits.
Well,
because it's the 21st.
In the modern sense of things, I don't know that's unexpected. I mean, that 3 weeks is,
But for 2, that would be like Marvel releasing 2 movies 4 weeks apart. Back in the day.
Well, or Marvel releasing in Star Wars and Marvel within
a Star Wars and a Marvel, yeah. So yeah, Star Wars hits June 1st and Marvel hits June 21st.
Yeah, and it wasn't. Yeah, it's a little tight, but considering, I don't have any idea how things are going to play out in theaters anymore. I honestly just
it's crazy. What was it? Not The Little Mermaid. Elemental was moving up the chart this week.
Yes.
In terms of box office. It's normally movies move one direction.
In the modern world, yeah.
In the modern world, they move down. Yeah. Very rarely do they move up. Except in cases of going from a limited release to a wide release.
Sure.
Or a wide release to a wider release. Or, a wide release to a wider release because of word of mouth, which rarely happens.
Yeah, it's not
anymore. It doesn't really happen.
It's not the norm.
No, it is not the norm. So the fact that Elemental it's not going up so much as it is not dropping as much as maybe it was expected to, and other movies maybe were dropping more. So that's
Well,
weird.
yes, I think that's a. I think that's a. You know, I mean, I think we're seeing with the Flash a considerable drop off. I think that they you know, anyone who really wanted to see it
Yep.
saw it opening weekend, and it appears that at least, you know, even the people who were okay with it, who liked it, they still wanted to see something else this week, you know,
Right.
or if they went to movies at all, they
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I mean, I'm not surprised. Elemental, it's a family film.
Yeah.
It's summer.
There's
Uh,
always a market for that in the summer.
yeah.
Yes.
So you know, I mean, I don't know.
It's strange. It's a strange, strange
No,
time.
it is, but but I, you know what? I wouldn't mind going back to a time where a film can start out at number 4 and then work its way up.
Yeah. I mean, and it has happened.
You know, but it's been a long time really since this sort of thing. But that's how it was. I mean, E.T. did not open at number 1. You know, E.T. It took a few weeks before people went, "Oh, it's a good movie. I should go see it."
Yeah.
And then it played forever. Um, you know, so I prefer that to the contemporary model where it's first weekend, and if it's no good, and then when I say no good, blockbuster number wise, you know, if it doesn't
Right.
make a ton of money in its first weekend, it's not going to. And then you have a lot of people who go, well, no one went to go watch it, so it can't be that good, right?
Right. And
It's
it'll
like,
be
well,
streaming in another 2 months.
yeah, now that's a new aspect of it too.
Yeah. Like I said,
Um,
I think I mentioned the theaters need to put their foot down and they need to throw out a number
well, and
for
you know what
not
I think,
streaming.
but I think that it is actually, I think that the studios are hurting because of it, because I don't think they're getting the revenue off of streaming that they thought they were going to.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a more conventional 3-month window, because
I
they're
mean,
realizing,
minimum.
yeah, well, yeah, because they're just not seeing you know, it doesn't benefit them as much as I think initially they thought it would
Yeah.
to have it instantly on their streaming services, because we're seeing streaming services are completely having to rethink the way they're going about things.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and Disney is part of that, and you know, Warner Brothers is part of that, and so yeah, I think that they're going to have to try to make theater important again if they want to actually make profits like they, I think, expected to make.
Or at least
I
more
think,
than, or at least enough. Because
yeah.
right now they're not
So
making enough.
no, and I think initially everyone thought, oh, streaming is going to be like what home video, DVD, Blu-ray sales, and all that were like,
Right.
and it's proving to not be the case. Um, because you know, if you're granted, yeah, okay, look, you spend $20 a month, but on Disney or whatever, and
Right.
that's a considerable amount. But when you divide that up of all the things that you're getting for that $20,
Yep.
as far as, you know, Disney making revenue off it, they're not really coming away as, you know, I mean, I guess. I don't know how they viewed what they thought the streaming system, you know, how it would work.
Yeah.
But
They
it
they
clearly,
can't have just assumed perpetual growth. It just doesn't work that way.
yeah. But I think they might have, or they, you know, or I don't know. I think that they were confused about what was actually happening. I don't
Yeah.
think they understood. They saw Netflix was making money, and so they thought, well, we want on our slice of that. But the problem was, you know, the model. I don't even, was Netflix making money? I don't even know. You know, I don't know if they were making money.
Yeah.
They were
Well, they were the
generating,
only game
yeah,
in town.
yeah. Well, them and
So,
Hulu,
well,
and
yeah,
then, but
I mean,
Hulu was
so they
TV,
probably weren't paying through the nose for content
probably not.
because they were the only game in town. So I mean, they were paying, but they weren't getting, raked over the coals.
Yeah,
And
but
then,
you know, even Netflix had to do, you know, recent history, laid off a ton of people.
yep,
So, I mean, I just think that, yeah, the movie industry was very quick to jump over to, uh, they adapted maybe too quickly during the pandemic, and they didn't have an exit plan, and they've shot themselves in the foot. They're really, I mean, I guess, yeah, I just don't think streaming did what those people expected it to.
Yeah.
And maybe it is as simple as too many people wanted their piece of the pie. And look, folks, the pie is not that big.
Yeah. In this case, economics people, the pie actually is finite.
Yeah.
So yeah, but in terms of Indiana Jones, I think
I have no idea.
well, I don't know. I don't know how soon it'll go to streaming. I said like 70 days and it'll be streaming on Disney Plus. But now I don't even know if it'll be on Disney Plus. Like I said, having had that revelation,
it probably
will. But I'd love to know the behind the scenes on that. I would love to know that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's it's the same sort of agreements that Sony has with Marvel. They work all that distribution and stuff out ahead of the game. So,
but like I said, but it's just going to be weird if Disney is paying $1 to stream their own. It's just like I said, that just boggles my mind. That there's a scenario in which that happens.
I would think that it would be more that they're sharing part of the dollar.
Something, but yeah, it's just weird.
I would think I would think it's probably Paramount gets 25%, something along those lines.
Well, that's interesting because again, we're deep in the weeds here, but it's funny if it turns into is Paramount going to get paid based on numbers? If it goes to Disney Plus, which we would assume it does, Disney is going to have to report actual data to Paramount to determine.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to just take their. I mean that's a whole separate subgenre of YouTube channel, is streaming number accuracy, and reporting, which nobody seems to be able to get their hands on. But it would be interesting. I said there's so much behind the scenes that I just realized is really, again, that for me that plays into my brain. It's like I love processes and I love understanding how processes work. Whether it's a legal process or a political process, or in this case, a filmmaking business process. It's like, well, now that I find that interesting, I kind of like to know how the sausage is made. Yeah. So now I'm just going to sit here and that's going to be rattling around my brain for like weeks, trying to come up with something that makes sense. And now I'm going to have to go do some digging because it's just going to bother me forever and ever at this point.
There you go.
But yeah, so we're kind of split on Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
I mean, I think it's fun enough. I think it's good enough.
I don't. Like I said, it's a 5 for me. It's a 5 for that opening sequence and for the kind of bits. It's not super nostalgic or fan servicey, which is nice, but there are things in there more indicative than lifted from, I guess, from what has gone before. And then we get to the end, and that's nice because who doesn't love Karen Allen? So there's that. Yeah, so that's where we're split on that, sadly. We do have there's kind of a dead zone here for a little bit until Mission Impossible on the 21st of July. I don't know that there's a ton coming out. I mean, big movies. There's no big movies coming out between now and then. I'm not sure when Barbie comes out.
I think it might be before then. It's somewhere in there.
And then Oppenheimer around the same time, but we'll see if it slides at all. No, it is. It's the 21st right now.
Yeah.
It was the last date I saw. So it's it and Mission Impossible 7, yeah, on the same date. That'll be a fun weekend. If you're a moviegoer, probably want to go see both on big screens. IMAX, probably. If you can find a theater that's not dedicated their one IMAX screen to one of those films, you might have to go to 2 separate theaters. That would be funny too, because I believe they were both made for IMAX. And Nolan's going to want his to be shown in IMAX, and Tom Cruise is going to want Mission Impossible to be shown in IMAX. That's another one of those interesting little business decisions that sits out there in the ether. It'll be fun. But no, I'll bet both of those will be worth watching in IMAX. Let's put it that way. So there you go. So we're going to be watching Mission Impossible this week. Next weekend, I will be in Denver for Fan Expo, which will be fun. But so we will be talking about Mission Impossible the week after that, the 4th of July weekend, which is also coming up. So enjoy your long holiday weekend, everyone. Go Freedom. That's that I don't want to get any farther into the 4th of July than that because people get all upset. So, Ryan, what do you have going on? You had to see Les Mis. You had to skip a movie the other night because you went and saw Les Mis on stage.
I went and saw Les Mis. Yes, I did.
And was it enjoyable?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But you know,
that's right. You skipped.
No
Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence, which my review is also up on the website, and you can go read that for yourself. Well, but if you see it finally and want to talk about it, we can talk about it.
I don't know. Val had some pretty choice things to say about it.
She was very clear in her review.
Anyway, so because you missed a movie that we had over the weekend.
Ruby Gillman.
Yes. So
another animated film. Since I probably won't go see it at this point unless my wife decides she really wants to go to the theater and see it. How was Ruby? What should everyone know about Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken?
If you thought Elemental was derivative, you've got something. Yeah, no, it's fine. I would say it's fine, but it
is that a DreamWorks?
Yes, it is, and I would say it's probably on the lower scale, because some DreamWorks stuff is actually really, really quite good. This is okay, it's of all the animated films that are out there, it is not the best. It's probably the worst. I would probably send you to Spider-Man first, Elemental second, and then this. Actually, I would do that order, but I might recommend seeing Spider-Man for a second time before seeing this one for a first time.
There you go. You go, everyone.
Yeah.
That is Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, with an evil mermaid.
Well, mermaids are traditionally, not so good.
Yeah, it's not according to Disney.
Well, dude. Disney.
Disney. There you go. All right, that's it.
Even Disney villains aren't Disney villains, according to anyway.
That's true. Very, very true. So there you go. There's your reminder of Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, and our discussion of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And once again, we talk about streaming and make Mark think things that are going to bother him for weeks. Because that's how I go. So don't forget to like us, follow us on social media at VS Movie Podcast, or go to the website, vsmoviepodcast.com, where you can read all of our reviews. I link to Ryan's reviews there. So good stuff for you to get there. Till next time, though, I'm Mark. That is Ryan. Bye, Ryan.
See you guys.
And we will talk to you all later.